You know that feeling? That little itch in the back of your mind you just can't scratch? The one that whispers something isn't right, even when everything looks perfect on the surface. Yeah, I lived with that feeling for months. It started small, almost imperceptible, like a tiny crack in a porcelain vase you only notice if the light hits it just right. My wife, Sarah, she was my world. Beautiful, smart, funny, the kind of woman who lit up a room just by walking into it. We had what I thought was a solid marriage, built on trust, laughter, and shared dreams. We weren't perfect, no couple is, but I believed we were strong. I believed in us. Then things started to shift. Subtle changes at first. She started working late more often. Not every night, just enough to notice. Project deadlines, she'd say, waving a dismissive hand. Her smile maybe a little too bright, a little too forced. Then there were the hushed phone calls she'd take in the other room, ending abruptly if I walked in. Just work stuff, honey, boring details, she'd reassure me, patting my arm. But her eyes, they'd dart away for just a fraction of a second. Long enough. The real kicker, the phrase that became the soundtrack to my slow descent into suspicion, was simple. Oh, don't be jealous, Mark. It started innocently enough. Maybe I'd ask who she was texting so late, a genuine question born of curiosity, not accusation. Just catching up with Lisa, she might say, followed quickly by, don't be jealous, it's nothing. Or I'd mention a new male colleague she seemed to talk about a lot. He's just a friend from the office, Mark. Seriously, don't be jealous. It was the way she said it. Not playfully, not reassuringly, but almost defensively. Like she was preempting an accusation I hadn't even fully formed in my own mind yet. It was gaslighting 101, but I didn't see it clearly then. Each time she said it, it planted a seed of doubt. Was I being unreasonable? Was I the insecure, jealous husband she was painting me as? I started questioning myself, my own perceptions. Maybe I was overthinking things. Maybe the long hours I worked were making me paranoid. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe everything was fine, that the foundation of our life wasn't trembling beneath my feet. But the inconsistencies kept piling up. Little things. An expensive scarf I hadn't bought her, appearing draped over her chair. Oh, I treated myself, forgot to mention it, she'd said, quickly folding it away. A weekend trip with the girls that Lisa, her supposed best friend, seemed surprised to hear about when I bumped into her later. Trip? Oh, right. Yeah, that trip, Lisa had stammered, clearly caught off guard. Sarah had brushed it off later. Lisa's memory is terrible. You know that. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe not. The real turning point, the moment the background noise of suspicion turned into a blaring alarm bell, happened about 3 months ago. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were usually our quiet night in. I got home a little early, expecting to find her curled up on the sofa with a book, like usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I called her name. No answer. I checked the bedroom, the kitchen, the study. Nothing. Her car was in the driveway, her keys and purse were on the hall table. Where could she be? Panic started to bubble in my chest. Did something happen? I pulled out my phone to call her, my thumb hovering over her contact. Then I heard it. A faint murmur of voices from the backyard. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by confusion. Why was she out back? We rarely used the patio in the evenings. I walked towards the back door, peering through the glass, and my blood ran cold. She was there, standing near the old oak tree at the edge of the lawn. But she wasn't alone. There was a man with her. Tall, dressed smartly, definitely not anyone I recognized from our circle of friends or her office stories. They were standing close, talking intently. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but the way he leaned in, the way she tilted her head, the shared intimacy of the moment, it screamed something more than just friends. My hand froze on the doorknob. My breath hitched. Who was this guy? Why was he here, in our backyard, talking so intimately with my wife? My mind raced, trying to piece together the scattered fragments of doubt from the past few months. The late nights, the hushed calls, the don't be jealous dismissals. Was this him? Was this the reason? Before I could process, before I could decide whether to storm out there or retreat, Sarah glanced towards the house. Her eyes widened slightly in surprise, maybe panic, when she saw me. She quickly took a step back from the man, forcing a bright, casual smile onto her face. The man turned, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes before his expression smoothed into polite indifference. Sarah slid the patio door open. Mark, you're home early. Her voice was pitched a little too high. This is David. He's a colleague from the regional office. He was just dropping off some files I needed for the big presentation tomorrow. David offered a hesitant hand. Nice to meet you, Mark. His handshake was firm, brief. I shook it numbly, my eyes flicking between him and Sarah. Files. I managed, the words sounding thick in my own ears. Couldn't those have waited until morning? Or been emailed? Sarah laughed, a brittle sound. Oh, you know how last minute these things can be. David was in the area anyway, so it was no trouble. Right, David? No trouble at all, David agreed smoothly, already backing towards the side gate. Well, I should get going. Good luck with the presentation, Sarah. Thanks, David. See you tomorrow. She watched him leave, then turned back to me, that same forced smile plastered on her face. See? Just work stuff. Honestly, Mark, and there it came, the familiar refrain, but this time it felt like a slap in the face. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous? A strange man I'd never met was in my backyard, having a hushed, intimate conversation with my wife, and I'm supposed to not be jealous? The absurdity of it, the blatant gaslighting, hit me full force. But I didn't explode. I didn't yell. A strange calm washed over me, the kind that precedes a storm. I just looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the flicker of fear behind the bravado. She knew. She knew I didn't buy it. Right, I said quietly. Files. I walked past her into the house, the silence stretching taut between us. I didn't ask any more questions that night. I didn't push. Because suddenly, I realized pushing wouldn't get me the truth. She was too good at deflecting, at twisting things, at making me feel like the crazy one. If I wanted answers, real answers, I'd have to find them myself. That night, lying in bed next to her, the space between us felt like a chasm. Her breathing was even, pretending sleep, but I could feel the tension radiating from her. My mind was racing. Who was David? How long had this been going on? Was it just emotional or physical too? The question swirled, unanswered, fueling a cold resolve growing within me. She had drawn a line, hiding behind dismissals and that infuriating phrase. She thought she could manage me, control my perception. She thought I would just accept her flimsy explanations. She was wrong. I wasn't going to be the jealous husband. I wasn't going to be the fool. I decided right then and there, staring at the ceiling in the dark, that I would play her game. I would pretend to believe her. I would be the trusting, slightly naive husband she seemed to want me to be. But behind that facade, I would watch. I would listen. I would wait. Because I had a sickening feeling that the man in the backyard was just the tip of the iceberg. I needed proof. Undeniable proof. I didn't know how I'd get it, or what I'd find. All I knew was that our carefully constructed life had just cracked wide open, and the truth, whatever it was lurking in the shadows. And I couldn't shake the terrifying thought, what else was she hiding? What would happen when I finally found out? The waiting game had begun, and I had a terrible premonition that the ending wouldn't be pretty. Little did I know just how ugly it was about to get, and how soon the next, far more shocking, revelation would hit me. So, I started playing the part. The trusting husband. The guy who bought the just work stuff, excuse hook, line, and sinker. On the outside, I was normal Mark. Loving, attentive, maybe a little preoccupied with my own job, just enough to give Sarah the space she seemed to crave. I didn't ask about late nights anymore. I didn't question the constant texting. When she mentioned David casually in conversation, testing the waters, I suspected. I just nodded along, feigning disinterest. Oh, the files guy? Hope the presentation went well, I'd say, keeping my voice light, betraying none of the turmoil churning inside me. It was exhausting. Living a lie, even a passive one, takes its toll. Every forced smile, every feigned moment of normalcy felt like scraping sandpaper across my soul. But I held firm. Because every time I saw that flicker of relief in her eyes when I didn't question her, it fueled my resolve. She thought she was getting away with it. She thought I was oblivious. That underestimation was my only advantage. Weeks turned into a month, then two. Life settled into a new, unsettling rhythm. The tension was still there, a constant hum beneath the surface of our daily interactions, but the overt suspicion was gone, replaced by my manufactured apathy. Sarah seemed to relax slightly. Maybe she believed she'd successfully navigated the storm. The late nights became a little less frequent, the hushed phone calls shorter. Perhaps she was getting complacent. Or perhaps, and this thought chilled me, perhaps she was just getting better at hiding it. During this time, I became an observer in my own home. I noticed things I hadn't before. The way she guarded her phone, always screened down, always angled away from me. The slight jumpiness when the doorbell rang unexpectedly. The vague answers about her weekend plans. Small details, individually meaningless, but together they painted a picture I couldn't ignore. The David incident hadn't been a one-off. Something was definitely still going on. The waiting was agonizing. I felt like a detective without a clue, searching for evidence that remained maddeningly out of reach. I considered hiring a private investigator, checking her phone records, installing tracking apps, all the desperate measures of a husband drowning in suspicion. But something held me back. Partly pride, partly fear of what I might find, and partly a gut feeling that the truth would reveal itself eventually, in its own time, in its own way. I just had to be patient and observant. And then, it happened. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation or a tearful confession. It was far more mundane, far more chilling, and infinitely more violating. It was a Thursday afternoon. I'd had a brutal week at work, nonstop meetings, looming deadlines. My boss, noticing I looked like death warmed over, told me to knock off early, get some rest. Go home, Mark. Recharge. See you Monday. Gratefully, I packed my bag, looking forward to an unexpectedly quiet evening, maybe ordering takeout, collapsing on the sofa. I pulled into our driveway around 3:30 p.m. Sarah wouldn't be home from her office for at least another 2 hours. The house looked quiet, still, just as I expected. I let myself in, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door, shrugging off my jacket. Silence. Absolute silence. Usually, even when empty, the house had ambient noise, the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. But today, it felt dead. Still, holding its breath. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. That same feeling from months ago, the something's not right whisper, but louder this time, more insistent. Call it paranoia, call it intuition, but I couldn't shake it. I walked slowly through the living room, heading towards the kitchen for a glass of water. And that's when I saw it. On the kitchen counter, next to the fruit bowl, sat a half-empty coffee mug. Not one of ours. It was a plain white ceramic mug, the kind you get at cheap diners, definitely not part of Sarah's carefully curated collection. Steam was still rising faintly from it. Someone had been here. Recently. My heart started hammering against my ribs. Okay, stay calm. Maybe she came home for lunch? But her car wasn't here. Maybe a neighbor stopped by? But who? And why wouldn't they use one of our mugs? My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation, but the silence of the house pressed in, suffocating reason. I stood frozen for a moment, listening. Was someone still here? I strained my ears. Nothing. Just the frantic thumping of my own pulse. I took a deep breath and moved towards the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Each footstep seemed unnaturally loud on the hardwood floor. I peered into the guest room. Empty. The study. Empty. Then I reached our bedroom door. It was closed. Not unusual. We often left it closed. But today, it felt different. Ominous. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the knob. What if? What if I opened that door and found my worst fears realized? Part of me wanted to turn around, walk out of the house, pretend I hadn't seen the mug, hadn't felt the silence. But the other part, the part that had been waiting, observing, enduring the gaslighting for months, needed to know. Had to know. I turned the knob slowly, pushing the door open just a crack. My eyes scanned the room. The bed was made, clothes were tidy. Everything looked normal. Relief started to wash over me, tentative but welcome. Maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe the mug belonged to a contractor, a cleaner I forgot about. And then I saw him. He wasn't in the bedroom itself. He was in the ensuite bathroom. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, and through the gap, I saw him, standing in front of the mirror, combing his hair. It was David, the colleague, the files guy, the man from the backyard. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, not work clothes, casual clothes, like he belonged there, like he just showered. My eyes darted to the shower stall. The glass door was fogged up. Drops of water glistened on the tiles inside. The air hung thick with steam. Time stopped. The world tilted on its axis. He was here, in my house, in my bathroom, using my shower, while I was at work, while Sarah was. Where was Sarah? Panic seized me again, colder this time. Was she here too? Hiding? Or had she just left? Left him here, in our home, like it was nothing? David hadn't seen me. He finished combing his hair, ran a hand over his jaw, and then turned towards the bathroom door. Towards me. Our eyes met through the crack in the door. His wide and fractionally, surprise flashing across his face, quickly replaced by a look I couldn't quite decipher. Not fear, Not panic. More like annoyance? Resignation? In that split second, before thought fully caught up with instinct, I reacted. I shoved the bedroom door wide open, stepping fully into the room, my eyes locked on him. What the hell are you doing in my house? My voice was low, shaking with a fury I didn't know I possessed. David didn't flinch. He leaned casually against the bathroom door frame, crossing his arms. A faint smirk played on his lips. Waiting for Sarah, he said, his tone infuriatingly calm. She just popped out for a minute. Said she'd be right back. Waiting for Sarah? In my bathroom? After taking a shower? The rage was building, a pressure cooker about to blow. He shrugged, a nonchalant gesture that sent waves of fire through my veins. Long drive. Needed to freshen up. The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated gall. He wasn't even trying to hide it. He was flaunting it. Standing there, half-dressed, in my home, admitting he was waiting for my wife. My wife, who had sworn he was just a colleague. My wife, who told me not to be jealous. Get out, I snarled, taking a step towards him. Get out of my house. Now. He didn't move. That smirk remained fixed on his face. Make me. Something inside me snapped. The months of suspicion, the gaslighting, the lies, the betrayal, it all culminated in that moment, facing this smug intruder in the heart of my home. I lunged forward, grabbing the front of his t-shirt, shoving him back against the bathroom wall. He stumbled, surprise finally registering in his eyes. I said, "Get out." I roared, my face inches from his. For a second, I thought he might fight back. His hands came up, pushing against my chest. But then, something shifted. Maybe he saw the sheer, unadulterated rage in my eyes. Maybe he realized this wasn't a game anymore. He suddenly seemed less confident, less arrogant. All right. Geez, calm down, man, he stammered, pushing me off weakly. He quickly grabbed a shirt hanging on the back of the door. My shirt? No, it looked like his, and started pulling it on. He scrambled to find his shoes, kicked haphazardly under the sink. I stood there, breathing heavily, watching his pathetic scramble, the fury still pulsing through me. Every instinct screamed at me to beat him senseless, to throw him physically out onto the street. But a cold corner of my mind held me back. This wasn't just about him. This was about Sarah. This was the proof. The undeniable, sickening proof. He fumbled with his shoes, hopping on one foot, then practically sprinted out of the bathroom, past me, out of the bedroom, and down the hall. I heard the front door slammed shut a moment later. Silence descended again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was thick with the residue of betrayal, heavy with the stench of his presence. I sank down onto the edge of my bed, our bed, the rage slowly receding, leaving behind a vast, aching emptiness. He had been here, in my house, while I was gone. My wife had lied, repeatedly, brazenly. She had told me not to be jealous while he was standing in our home. The violation felt absolute, shattering. The unbelievable photo from the title wasn't a literal photo. It was this scene, burned into my memory. Him, standing there, casual, entitled. The steamed-up shower. The half-empty mug downstairs. It was a snapshot of betrayal more vivid, more devastating than any photograph could ever be. I sat there for a long time, the reality washing over me in waves. What now? What do I do now? Confront Sarah when she gets home? Pack my bags and leave? Burn the whole damn house down? The options felt overwhelming, inadequate. My mind was a battlefield of anger, pain, and a strange, chilling clarity. The waiting was over. The game had changed. She thought she was in control, but she had just handed me all the power. She had no idea I was home. She had no idea I knew. And as the initial shock began to fade, replaced by a cold, hard resolve, one thought echoed louder than any other. She is not getting away with this. She has no idea what's coming next. So there I was, sitting on the edge of my bed, in my house, the ghost of him, of David, still hanging heavy in the air. The steam in the bathroom had dissipated, but the chill of betrayal had settled deep into my bones. The initial explosion of rage had passed, replaced by something far colder, far more dangerous, calculated fury. She had played me for a fool. She had lied to my face, repeatedly. She had violated the sanctity of our home, our marriage, with breathtaking arrogance. Don't be jealous, she'd said. The words echoed in my mind, mocking me, fueling the fire. Oh, I wasn't jealous anymore. I was incandescent. My first instinct was raw, primal. Wait for her to walk through that door, unleash the torrent of accusations, watch her crumble, throw her out along with every memory we ever shared. Simple. Brutal. Cathartic, maybe. But as I sat there, the silence punctuated only by my own ragged breathing, another thought began to crystallize. Simple wasn't enough. Brutal felt unsatisfying. She hadn't just cheated. She had gaslit me, manipulated me, made me question my own sanity while she carried on her sordid affair right under my nose, literally in my house. That level of deceit deserved more than just an angry outburst. It deserved a reckoning. I needed her to understand the depth of her betrayal. I needed her to face the consequences, not just run from them. And selfishly, maybe I needed a little payback. Not just for the affair, but for the months of lies, the emotional torture, the constant refrain of "don't be jealous." My mind started working, formulating a plan. It wasn't about intricate traps or elaborate revenge plots you see in movies. It was simpler, quieter, but potentially far more devastating. I knew Sarah. I knew her triggers, her insecurities, the things that mattered most to her: appearances, control, the image of the perfect life she projected to the world. And I knew just how to dismantle it, piece by painful piece, using her own lies against her. First, I tidied up. I rinsed out David's coffee mug and put it away, burying it deep in the back of a cupboard. I aired out the bathroom, erasing the last traces of steam. I smoothed the duvet on the bed. I walked through the house, ensuring everything looked exactly as it should when she walked in. No sign of disturbance. No hint that her sanctuary had been breached, her secret exposed. I needed her to feel safe, complacent, oblivious. That was crucial. Then, I waited. Not passively this time, but actively. Like a predator stalking its prey. I sat in the living room, pretending to read a book, my ears straining for the sound of her car in the driveway. Each minute felt like an hour. The anticipation was a physical ache in my chest. Finally, around 5:45 p.m., I heard it. The crunch of tires on gravel. The car door shutting. The jingle of keys at the front door. My heart rate kicked up, but I forced myself to remain calm, my expression neutral. The door opened, and she walked in, humming softly, dropping her bag on the floor. "Mark? You're home already." Surprise flickered in her eyes, but no panic. Good. She didn't suspect a thing. "Yeah, boss let me go early." "Rough week," I said, keeping my voice even, casual. I didn't get up. Didn't rush to greet her. Just watched her. "Oh, nice," she said, kicking off her shoes. She seemed tired, maybe a little distracted. "Long day here too. I might just take a quick shower before dinner." My blood ran cold at the mention of a shower, the irony thick enough to choke on. But I just nodded. "Sure. Sounds good." She headed towards the bedroom, disappearing down the hall. I listened intently. The sound of the bedroom door closing. Then, a few moments later, the unmistakable sound of the shower starting in the ensuite bathroom. The same shower David had used just hours before. Bile rose in my throat. How could she? How could she be so nonchalant, so utterly devoid of conscience? This was my moment. While she was trapped, vulnerable, unsuspecting. I stood up, walked quietly down the hall, and stopped outside the closed bedroom door. I could hear the water running, muffled singing. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Then, I knocked. Gently. The singing stopped. The water continued running. "Yeah," she called out, her voice slightly muffled. "Hey, honey?" I kept my tone light, conversational. "Quick question. Did you happen to see my blue cufflinks this morning? Can't seem to find them anywhere." A lie, of course. My cufflinks were exactly where they always were. There was a pause. No, I don't think so," she called back. "Why?" "No reason, just needed them for tomorrow. Could you maybe check the top drawer of the dresser when you get out?" "Sure, Mark, no problem." Her voice was cheerful, unsuspecting. I waited another minute, letting the mundane request hang in the air. Then, I delivered the payload. Still keeping my voice calm, almost casual, I said, loud enough for her to hear clearly over the shower, "Oh, and by the way." David left his coffee mug on the counter again. You really should remind him to take it with him next time. We're running out of cupboard space. Silence. The water was still running, but the silence from her was deafening. It stretched for 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 15. It felt like an eternity. I could almost picture her face, the dawning horror, the sudden, sickening realization. She knew. She knew I knew. Then, abruptly, the shower shut off. The sudden quiet was startling. I heard frantic movement inside the bathroom, the rattle of the shower door. The bedroom door handle turned, and the door flew open. Sarah stood there, wrapped hastily in a towel, her hair dripping, her face pale, her eyes wide with panic and disbelief. What? What did you just say? She whispered, her voice trembling. I leaned against the doorframe, mirroring David's posture from earlier, but without the smirk. My expression was cold, flat. The coffee mug. David's. He left it again. Just like he left the bathroom smelling like his cologne this afternoon after his shower. Her face crumpled. The color drained completely, leaving her looking ghostly. Tears welled up in her eyes. The facade shattered instantly, spectacularly. No more denials, no more gaslighting. Just raw, unadulterated panic. Mark. How she stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. How did I know? I finished for her, my voice dangerously quiet. Because I came home early, Sarah. Because I saw him. Standing right where you are now, combing his hair after using our shower. Waiting for you to get back from wherever you popped out to. A strangled sob escaped her lips. She sank onto the edge of the bed, the towel falling slightly, forgotten. Mark, I'm so sorry. I can explain. Explain. I let out a short, harsh laugh devoid of humor. Explain what? Explain the months of lies? Explain telling me not to be jealous while you were bringing him into our home? Explain treating me like an idiot? There's nothing to explain, Sarah. There's only the truth. And I finally see it. The tears flowed freely now, silent tears tracking paths down her pale cheeks. She looked broken, pathetic. A part of me, the old Mark, felt a flicker of pity. But the new Mark, the one forged in betrayal, stamped it out ruthlessly. This wasn't about pity. This was about consequences. What are you going to do? She whispered, looking up at me, fear etched onto her face. I don't know yet, I said truthfully, though my resolve was hardening by the second. But we are over. This marriage, this lie we've been living, it's done. You need to pack your bags. She started sobbing harder, pleading. No, Mark, please. Don't do this. It was a mistake. A stupid mistake. It meant nothing. Please, give me another chance. A chance. I repeated, the word tasting like ash. You had your chance every single time you lied to me. Every time you whispered, don't be jealous while you were betraying me. You made your choice, Sarah. Now you live with it. I didn't wait for more pleas. I turned and walked away, leaving her there amidst the wreckage of her own making. I went into the guest room and closed the door. I could hear her muffled sobs through the wall, punctuated by desperate calls of my name. I ignored them. Later that night, after the crying had subsided into a heavy silence, I heard her moving around, drawers opening and closing, the sound of bags being zipped. She didn't try to talk to me again. Around midnight, I heard the front door open and close softly. I looked out the window and saw her car pulling away, disappearing into the darkness. Relief washed over me, but it was hollow, tinged with a profound sadness. The reckoning had come. The confrontation wasn't loud or violent, but quiet, cutting, and absolute. I hadn't needed to scream or throw things. Her own lies, exposed in the cold light of truth, had been enough to bring her world crashing down. Was it revenge? Maybe, in a way. Seeing the panic, the realization dawn on her face, it provided a grim sort of satisfaction. But mostly, it was closure. It was reclaiming my sanity, my self-respect. It was drawing a line and refusing to let her cross it again. The aftermath wasn't easy. There was legal stuff, dividing assets, the awkward conversations with family and friends. But through it all, I held on to the knowledge that I had faced the betrayal head-on my own terms. I hadn't let her gaslight me into submission. I hadn't ignored my gut feeling. The lesson? Trust your intuition. Those little whispers, those nagging doubts, sometimes they're telling you something important. Don't let anyone, no matter how much you love them, make you question your own reality. And never, ever let someone tell you, don't be jealous when they're giving you every damn reason to be. Because sometimes, the man they tell you not to worry about is standing in your house, using your shower. And discovering that truth, however painful, is the first step towards reclaiming your life. It was for me, anyway. The road ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like my own again. And that's a start.